Motion to approve.
Well, I move to approve the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I don't think I have any remarks. Do I have any remarks?
Oh, he's been in Aruba, so.
Yeah, I'm still on Aruba time.
Poor thing.
Yeah.
Let me adjust, cultural.
Yes.
It was nice to get away though, I'll say that. Even flying wasn't bad, we were
We're on, whatever on you flying.
Southwest,
Mm.
nonstop. Middle seats were open, not because it made them be open, but because it was about 2/3 full. Coming back, it was about 1/3 full, so.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Stretch out.
So
Where'd you go?
Aruba. So there is a little world out there.
So I
Hopefully
hear.
everybody will get to enjoy it pretty soon. I don't really have any other remarks. Rhea, officer.
Yeah, I've just been collecting money, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
With that.
So far for the upcoming fiscal year, which are, the current year's collections, we're at 62%, which I think is probably high for the period of time. For the current fiscal year, I know I keep saying this because I'm just so pleased with it, which ends June 30th, we're at 84%. And we always count on 80% collection for the budget. So people are paying.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It is.
So I thought that was really good. The beach hours, the woman that did them last year scheduled the gate opening and closing and monitoring the hang tags and so on. She said, she asked me a question about it today, and I responded, but I said, I wondered if we shouldn't maybe schedule a few less hours, just given the condition of the beach. Does that make sense?
What
You know,
are
unless
the
things
hours now?
improve.
What are the hours now?
I didn't take a look to see. I don't know.
But, and a silly question, but what does condition have to do with ours?
Well, because if there's no sand on the beach,
Well,
Well,
that's,
will
there-
people
there's
even
sand.
be coming?
There's
Is
sand.
there
Yeah.
sand? Okay, I hadn't,
It-
I mean,
it
there's some
comes and
asphalt
goes.
showing, but it's pretty much kind of like.
okay,
Yeah.
so keep the hours about
yeah,
what
if
she
people
did last
choose
year.
not to come, that's fine, but why
Yeah.
change the hours?
Okay, I just assumed
I agree.
that there was no sand on the beach. I know the beach.
No, it's,
I'm not a beach person to speak of.
it's, it varies by the tides and storms.
Yeah, I was on it 2 days ago, and there was,
Yeah, last time I rode by it, it wasn't that bad.
Okay,
yeah, it
all right.
wasn't too
I'll let
bad.
her know then. And the only other thing I have, really, I suppose should have been an agenda item, and I didn't think to put it on here, the quick claim for repairing rights. It's pretty straightforward, I think.
For the email.
Yeah, I just sent it today, the Hansons,
Yeah.
yeah, on the lakeside.
Mm-hmm.
Their lot is right here.
Yeah,
So
they're
this
right
is
next
from
to the
lake.
club, yeah.
Are they getting ready to do something?
They want to build here,
Okay. Yeah, that was fun.
so
I don't see a problem.
you want to sign it then, or? Well, you have to, your name is on it. So there's two
So
copies. And then I'll
Do you want to sign
notarize
it
it.
also? Yeah.
Sign some paper. Go ahead and do both, just because I printed them both, and I'll do them on.
Your autograph.
And that's all I have. Oh, Mike, you were gonna mention that. Actually, it's just to get
Well,
something on paper.
I don't, Rhea's talking about I guess, you've seen maybe in the news, local news about the apartments up at the Lusby, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And my first remark was, whether you like it or not, we don't have a dog in that fight.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, to me, there's no comments needed from here.
It's where the white shopping center is,
It's,
right?
yeah, it's basically where Mount Scott is. It
In
was
the street
apparently
under the
built back
shops.
into that, and so there's, the locals are all up in arms, and
How many stories is
I
it?
have no idea.
186, 186 units, I think it is. How many stories?
So it's gonna,
It's probably gonna be garden.
there's petitions out, to sign against it, there's obviously gonna be public discussion and hearings and everything before anything happens. So if you feelings, that's the way to express
My only
it, not,
feeling is
But
the
not-
the
not-
traffic.
not through
yeah.
the board.
Well, and not as a representative of the board.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I mean,
If, you know, yeah, as a private person, you can,
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
anything
say
you want
whatever
to,
you want.
but.
Yeah, and then, you know, I mean, Ralph was really upset about this whole thing because the roads won't be able to handle it.
Well, there's a whole
And
bunch of
the
issues
traffic
about
there,
it, yeah.
and he spoke with Mike Hart, and Mike was like, you know, my hands are almost tied, but I'm gonna try to do whatever I can, but he said it's gonna be like 10, at least maybe 10 years down the road before it's going to be completed.
Yeah.
People are closing out.
Yes.
Crazy or something else.
It's like, it's
Yeah.
like anything else like that, I mean, that side of the development, there have to be road plans and all kinds of stuff before it's ever gonna go forward, so it just, no point in getting our, what's
I
the
know.
why over it
Yeah.
right now.
yeah.
Sure, it's all tied up in a knot.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And besides, even if we were all excited about it, we officially have no, like you said, we have
Right,
no dog in
it's
this
not,
fight.
yeah,
Well, I actually had a phone call from a former resident of Drum Point, and weeks and weeks ago, I had never even heard of this thing.
yeah.
And he said he wanted to bring it to my attention so I could mention it to you guys, and I think his point was that he wanted you to make a stand against it.
We don't
Um,
care.
And I didn't say that, but.
Well,
Right.
I have been to hearings,
Mhm.
and they have had other neighborhood representatives
Mhm.
come
Mhm.
and speak.
About this particular issue?
No, not about this particular issue, but
Yeah.
about other
I mean,
issues
Well,
in
no,
the
we
county.
Sure, we
have,
could.
we have also spoken in an official capacity. For example, when they wanted to make the Ranch Club
Oh, that's
a
right.
metro,
Municipality.
Municipality that would
And-
absorb us.
it would eventually absorb us and a lot of, so yes, the board, members of the board went and they were there officially and said no.
We had a dog in that
But
fight.
we had a real
Yeah,
dog in
yeah.
the fight, but we have, as the lawyers would say, we have no standing
Yeah.
in an apartment building
Right.
5 miles away.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you're welcome to, if there's any public hearings or petitions or whatever.
It could
You're
affect
welcome
Mill
to-
Creek.
And,
Well,
no, I'm serious question. And,
It could affect Mill Creek with runoff.
Well,
that's what all
Again, that's-
the planning, and it's 10 years out, and I hope the state has a whole environmental committee that looks at how they build the roads and drainage and blah, 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 blah.
and remember too, that some, some aspects of this have already been laid out. There was a town plan for that whole development area. It included various things that some people argue have either not been done right or, so this is all gonna be wrapped up in that, and the county's planning, the commissioners and planning people and zoning, and everybody's gonna be wrapped up in this thing. So there's gonna be plenty of opportunity to comment, and ask questions, and sign petitions.
I think one reason, if I may say, that the board shouldn't, as a board, make a statement or take a stance. Thinking years ago now, a board member, she did not mean to do this. She stood up in a public hearing, I think it was about the expansion of the LNG plant at the time. And she didn't mean to do this, she just simply said, my name is such and such,
And
I'm on the board of directors at Drum Point. People took that to me, and she was advocating against it. She was a firm believer that it should not be expanded. But it made it sound like the board was making that statement, and that wasn't the case. And you didn't want to make the statement, at least not for that, because there were jobs involved and so on. And you don't know, so-and-so down the street, depending on the expansion. I don't know if this would be any kind of a similar situation, but, so stand up and, say, I'm Ginny Rice, and I don't like this, but don't say, I'm Ginny
No,
Rice,
I
I'm board of
wouldn't.
directors.
Of course I
Well,
wouldn't.
like I said, she didn't mean to. She didn't go in there with the intention to be representing the board. I don't even think it had been discussed by the board. She just was saying who she is, so,
But she
and
didn't have to
it brought a
say
lot
that
of ire.
she should have said she was on.
She
She
was
should have.
identifying
But she
herself.
was just
No, no,
defining
I'm
who she
saying, she
is.
should have said, I live in Drum Point.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly,
okay.
exactly.
That's a difference.
Okay.
And it is a difference, but I'm just saying,
Yes.
it caused people to
Yeah.
complain about
Oh,
that.
absolutely, yes,
Yeah.
I can understand.
Where did you hear 10 years?
Mike Hart,
Oh, really?
he's, you know, one of the commissioners,
Hmm.
because Ralph said, I need to find out about this. So that's what he said.
Hmm.
Probably took 10 years to get the answer.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's taking 10 years, it might be 12 or 15, you know.
Who knows?
Things go on.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, then the whole demographics will change.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, enough of that. Operations and roads.
Well, in talking with Sal that you just met, I can strike that off because he said he'd be here in May and he showed up tonight. There are 2 or 3 storm drainage issues in Drum Point, nothing major, but yet major to the property owners, you know, being impacted. There's one on Bay Drive, there's one on Buckler Drive that he looked at today, and possibly one on Perrin. But all 3, I've made a spreadsheet because there have been a lot with all this rain.
Yeah, there was a period of.
So I was losing track, so I made a spreadsheet. So I have those 3 marked as pending Chris Franklin being the man that's coming, hopefully to replace Jeff. I haven't heard any progress on that, other than that Public Works has approved it and it's at HR. Jeff McDonald is still working for us. He's not in an official capacity, and I keep trying to keep him out of things. But something at the end of Lake Terrace, an issue with the driveway and our paving, and he oversaw that project, so I called him. So he's been to that house, and he's talked to the owner, and he's cleaned out a culvert, and that was on Saturday. He does feel as though something probably maybe needs to be done with regard to getting that culvert clear, but we don't know who put the culvert in. He didn't know it was there. I should ask Gary. I wonder if he knows it was there.
Oh my, you looked at that property line.
Yeah, my thinking is the owner to the right put it in when they built the house, but I don't know. And on the happy side, Surf Street pipe replacement is finished. And the inspection was done Friday, was supposed to have been done Friday.
Yeah, it looks
Good,
good.
good.
Yeah,
That's
good,
good.
look good. And that's it.
Yeah, I went down there, yesterday.
Yeah, I was there.
I don't even know what, don't know what hemisphere I'm in. Anyway, I went down there and looked at it, it looks nice, and then I took my rocks down there and filled that little hole in around those concrete things. And it looks like Joe or somebody has patched the top of that one.
Yes, that's one patch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
and that's not Lake Terrace, it's Lakeview, by the way.
Is that like?
The opposite
No.
side, the
Oh,
opposite
you're talking
side.
about something else.
It's where the driveway and the culvert and all that was Lakeview.
Surf and
It's Surf.
Lakeview come together, so.
Say, like,
Lakeview is just off Bayview,
okay, yeah, that's
Just
on
down
the other
from
side of
Bayview.
the causeway.
just down from Bay, at the intersection.
Where, surface, where Lake Place comes and joins
Yes,
Lake
Yeah, I know,
Drive.
but where is the new culvert?
the culvert, that's on Surf.
That's on Surf.
Yes. I backed up to my report earlier, I'm sorry. I said Jeff McDonald was working with somebody on Lake Terrace. It isn't,
Right.
it's Lakeview.
Lakeview,
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
that was that problem, but this is the other one that's finished is
Yeah.
Surf and,
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
right.
Sorry.
Too many lakes,
Yes, that's true.
lakes and bays.
I hope I took my rocks to the right place.
I think you did.
Yeah, okay. So, and like I told you, you'll get a call probably tomorrow from Susan on the question about the culvert up
Yeah.
there and figure out what we need to do or if anything.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on that?
That's it.
Okay. Jack, money?
I had a look at the budget, everything looks good. Doesn't look like we'll go over in any categories, and I'm glad that the membership without much hassle. Prove that it's never happened before, I just. Anyway, won't happen again, at least this fiscal year. So, we're in good shape. I was asking, in anticipation of the planning committee and then looking for funds for the beach, if it's ever goes through. I think there is a plan that we can do that.
So you're saying you wouldn't have to finance the whole 250K?
If it were that price.
If it were that price, yeah. I mean, people were gasping
Yeah.
when we talked about that, but I don't think it happened. I was pretty sure we didn't have to.
The only issue is that we'd have to really be focused on taking as much as we can out of the STD account for just the things that the county will let us do, which are all the roads. A few things, and that'll free up some of our mandatory assessment and other money that is ours, unencumbered. And I think we can, I could do the sums, but we could get quite a lot of the estimated cost.
Okay. So that would come out of reserves, basically.
Well, yeah, it would take everything we have, probably, but.
Yeah.
And there's always the option of only financing part of it. You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right?
Doesn't have to be, it's
It
just that we
it
do
makes
have,
sense.
we do have quite a lot of
Yeah, so
assets.
wouldn't it?
The problem is they're fenced off by the county.
Some of them, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
right.
Well, we just make sure that we spend the county's money whenever and wherever we
That's,
can.
Yes.
that's,
Yes.
It's not the county's money.
Well, yeah, no, it's our money
It's
that
your
we
money.
have to, that we
I
have to
can't even say
account
it's
to
our
for
money.
the county,
Yeah.
that's right.
then we have to convene the finance committee to do the budget whenever it's convenient, in the next few days. So, I think I talked to everybody on the finance committee. It's Mike, Bonnie, Alyssa, and Jenna. And Mike Chaconis is sort of the resident member.
Okay, so you're gonna get there, you can come back.
He's agreed to do it. So we just have to find a time, and I'm just wondering if doing a Zoom meeting might be the most convenient for people, or getting together now, or.
Maybe some of each, you know, in a meeting.
Would you do it during the day?
Whenever it's convenient, I can do it anytime, so it's just a
It's
question.
just sort of handy for me to be in front of my QuickBooks, because I can
Yeah.
open up, you know, if somebody says, well, what is that? I can click on it in
Yeah.
time to see where did we spend that money.
Well, if it's a smaller group, we could probably meet here.
Okay, and there's daytime, business hours, okay, or this time,
Yeah.
for example, or.
We could come Monday.
Well,
Or this week, and we could be weekends,
If
if
you're-
people are available.
if you're even thinking about Alyssa participating, there's the long pole in the tent.
She might be the Zoom candidate.
Right.
Well, maybe, but,
She could be that.
I'll write her and ask her.
What works out for her. I could bring my laptop in. And in a smaller area, it would work out better. That's kind of hard in that garage because it was so big, and I don't think
Yeah.
anybody could
Yeah.
hear too well.
Yeah, but that was a lifesaver, that garage.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's what it was.
We were lucky to
right.
have that.
We could have done it right out on the
Well,
wall.
why don't you check, I mean, I'm pretty open to
Okay,
most any time. Other than, you know, if you,
I'll come up with some potential dates and see what's the most convenient for the most concerned. So that's it, okay.
how's the environment?
I think it's pretty good, you know, we haven't, last time we talked, we were talking about the removal of the canes in different places, and I don't know, at that point it was too early.
He's been working on that.
Okay, so he's just
I
chipping
don't
away.
think he's gotten them all
No,
done.
no, I mean, there's a lot,
Yeah,
and I
right.
haven't been down to look at Lake Terrace
I don't think
lately.
he's done like Terrace.
Well, and the canes should be dead by now.
Yeah.
So we should be able to do that. And the other thing I wanted to talk to Jimmy about, but when we attended that Zoom Smithsonian lecture, they were talking about these different native plants. I was just thinking, we had 2 years to see what comes back normally, we're pretty much at that point. So we could see if there's any of those native plants that look more promising, that we could see about planting if we have to. I mean, maybe you and I could get together and we could do a drive-by or
Sounds good.
and just see the state of stuff.
Wanna do it this week?
This is probably this weekend, are you around this weekend?
Oh,
Oh,
I'm gonna be done.
maybe, you know, I'll
Early next
talk to
week.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
My email's not working still, so, I
Okay,
mean, I can
you
receive,
text,
but I
you
can't
text.
send out.
You can text.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
text
the
me.
best way.
I can tell you native grass has come back.
Yes.
I used
Yeah.
to bemoan the fact that I didn't have any dune grass. It's taken over the whole beach.
Yeah, and it's kind of creeping my way, but
That's
it
right.
hasn't quite made it.
It is just go
But
like
I don't, you know,
gangbusters.
I have no idea what the actual plant is though. It would be
It's
interesting to
some
find
dune,
out.
but it is some
Have you
native
been-
dune
have you seen-
grass.
Yeah, you were down there to see
Yes,
all that
yeah.
grass stuff. We could figure out what that is. that's doing well. It would
It's-
be- Yeah, and if you want something, that's not gonna be a pest after a while, I mean, but it's spreading, but maybe it gets contained by the,
Isn't there
Just
someone
around
either in the county or the state, I remember talking about this maybe a couple of years ago now, that it's a horticultural office that advises on native plants and even gives free plants.
yes, that's right. I think around in Lenakaizen, I think is,
There's the free tree program, I don't know if
I
there
don't- we
are
don't- we don't
plants
want
other
any
than
trees,
trees.
though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I don't know if they
Maybe
we
have.
want these little grasses, we don't even, we just want what Tony has in his
Yeah.
beachfront, that.
Yeah.
Well, she probably would,
Native.
I'm sure she would know
As
who's,
soon as the
who to
fragmite
contact
disappeared.
if she's not
That's
the
the-
person.
Yeah, we don't wanna dig it up and send it out, we don't wanna touch it. But we can maybe talk about a time
Sure.
that's convenient, and we could go assess everything at this
Mhm.
point. That's all I've got.
Safety?
Can I make one
Go.
comment? And I know you addressed this at the meeting last time about the trash issue and that it was better. Well, I have to say, a lot of people have been out picking up trash and it wasn't looking so good. Like Derek and I
Good.
got a couple of kitchen, bags and filled up on Bayview and also when you go down, we didn't even touch Laurel, but when you go down Laurel with, Lake Charming on either side, there's been a red propane tank on in the pond on the left side that's been there for at least 2 months, just sitting in the
On
water.
Laurel?
Like when you go down Laurel, and it's on the left side.
So we're coming from your house and you went down and you're going from.
If coming from my house, it would be on the
Is
right
this something
side.
Joe can get down there and get?
I
That's
don't
pretty
know.
Steep down.
I don't
there.
know, I mean, and that's the thing, I don't think anyone is gonna try to pick it up because it's in an awkward
And how big is
place.
it?
I mean,
Is it
it's
just a little thing, or is it?
like this. It's been there for
But
the 2
you-
months,
You
2
said it's
months.
a red propane tank?
Yeah, it's a red one.
Do we know if there's anything in it?
I don't know. And I don't know if it washed, you know, when we had a lot of rain, I don't know if it washed from somebody's
That'd be-
yard or
that'd be-
someone tossed it
Pretty
in there.
heavy, wouldn't it? I mean.
Could be.
it could
Yeah.
You think any possibility that you get the county from a hazmat perspective to
Yeah,
come
I
in?
was gonna think if it's
Come
a.
and get
Because
it?
that's, I mean, that's the thing,
Yeah.
people have been cleaning up, but nobody wants to
Maybe.
touch
Like
that,
they
you
don't
know?
Well,
I can
but-
contact,
Or even
Somebody,
if
I'm not sure
pay
who.
somebody to take it out, at least.
but I don't know who to pay even, that's the hard part.
I've never seen a red
Hard to
propane
find
tank,
it.
isn't the color of the
Yeah.
tank indicate what's in it?
Yeah, I thought so
Yeah,
too.
it could, that's why I'm concerned about, you know.
Yeah.
Could be something else.
What are those pressure tanks for water, they're blue, aren't they, like a pale blue?
Yeah, they're blue with a, yeah.
Always,
But
yeah,
those,
okay,
yeah, those are
Yeah, if
blue
you're coming,
generally.
yeah.
yeah, like if you're going, like on Dogwood, and you take a left on Laurel, and you go down, and you come back up, it's on the
Is
left.
it in the pond itself? Or is it
Yeah, it's in the water.
Or on the
It's-
lake
But the
side?
part of it is up, sticking up, and part of it's in the water.
On the bay side.
See that walk by there?
No,
Just
on the
through
lake
time.
side.
Oh, on the lake side.
Yeah,
Well, on the pond, on the,
in the pond,
Oh,
yes.
okay, so if you're going from here up Laurel, like you're going up the hill,
Mm-hmm,
it's on the left, the little retaining pond
mm-hmm.
on the left.
On the pond that's further away from the bay,
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
Well, that might be pretty similar. I was envisioning the other side, and that goes down over the hill rather,
Yeah,
you know,
that's.
somewhat steeply and hard to get to. Okay, so that's a little better. But I'll call, I don't know, is there a hazmat office for Calvert County, or is that a DNR thing?
Well, there's,
Or not DNR, I don't know. I'll Google.
Yeah. Or call Robin, she would, I
She
mean,
might
you have a entree into.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, I'll see what I can find out.
I was just thinking about Tony's plant, I'll take a picture of it and send it to Mark Smith, he'll know.
It's like,
He'll know-
you know,
He'll know what those things are.
where Laurel dips down and
There's
it's got
yeah,
like a view.
Identification,
It's right
Facebook
here,
page
it's
also,
on
you can
the,
take a picture.
the side, of, you know, that's farthest from the.
Yeah, okay.
He's always,
Yeah,
people
That's
always
good.
think
That's
they
good.
have rights,
Yeah.
that that's such and such and such.
yeah, I don't know how you quite get to it, unless you go into somebody's property.
Well, we have waiting rooms, you know,
I would
like,
think that somebody would probably give permission to do that.
Yeah.
Well, sure, but I'm just concerned, I don't want people going to risk
Yeah.
either from drowning or slipping or
It would be
Pick-
so,
or handling something that should be handled.
it would be so much better if the county had
Right.
somebody.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, if
Yeah.
we had it professionally done, and then that takes care, they will know what to do.
You know, they might even contact the fire people or something too.
Oh, there we go, fire department.
Yeah, it's been there for a while. At first I thought, well, maybe somebody like there from the house, it's like, but it's still there, so.
How big is this thing?
Well, I can't really tell if it's part of
Yeah,
it's under the water,
It's not one of
but
these big, it's probably one of these
it's
big,
probably about this big.
but small.
Speaking of the fire department, I don't know if it's been a year since we donated, but they have their spring fundraiser going on, you know,
Okay.
so.
Want to donate or?
Didn't we donate as
Did we
a,
a group last
We
As a
did
group,
last
yeah,
year
right.
because we'd had so many storms and they were Johnny on the spot getting
yeah,
here.
so it's not something we do every year?
We used to every year,
How
sometime.
much, how big a donation did we, as a,
I
We did
would have to
300
look.
last
Was it
year,
300? Well, if somebody wants to make a motion to do that again, or?
I think it's a good
Motion to
idea,
give
to have
$300
money.
to the volunteer fire department.
What was the amount
I'll
again?
second.
300.
if Jack says it's okay?
That's what we gave last year. Do we have the money, Jack?
Yeah, we do,
Well,
but,
that-
you know,
There's no line item for it.
Oh,
of course, you don't want to do something.
oh, well, wait a minute, can't we take it out of expendable supplies?
Oh, probably,
Could take it out of tree trimming.
I mean,
I mean, they cut out
That's
trees
right,
for
that's
us.
true, yeah.
the big thing
You know,
is they
that's-
remove those trees.
They did, so
Yeah,
can I
okay,
put it under
yeah.
tree removal?
Easily worth $300.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there you go,
Yeah,
so
okay.
take it out of tree removal.
Yeah.
$300, is that what you
Would have cost us
All
more.
in favor?
Yeah, I was gonna
All in
say,
favor of
we were
$300
expensive.
donation?
I assume it was second.
I second it.
Opposed?
They're very creative.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything else from environment?
No.
What, safety?
Has anybody heard from Peter? How is he doing?
I asked Gary, this is, they're good friends, and he said, well, they hold their own. That's about all he said.
So we don't know if he's up and about, or if I can meet with him, or he could come
Yeah.
down here, or.
I think at the general meeting, they did say that, you know, you could get, you know, call him and maybe arrange, you know,
Yeah.
what would be a good time, you know, to go over and see him.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do, just do that, call him or Susan
Yeah,
and see if
And
see if they'd mind a visit and.
Yeah.
well, yeah, just wanna pick his brain a little bit and see what, if he's in any kind of physical shape to be able to get around. Because in the next few weeks, it is my goal to be able to get into the room and start taking inventory of what's there and what isn't there, and what we need and that kind of thing, and try to get it organized in case we do have an emergency here.
Gary might have a pretty good idea about what's back there already, because he helped Peter quite a bit.
Are we going to do the cameras again?
They keep popping up on my task. I just don't have anybody that will climb up the ladder. Sal does not do ladders,
All right.
so you know that.
I can still
Sal
do it.
does not. Well, somebody should be with you though.
Oh, yeah, it's better not to.
Mom says.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
I just didn't know if we were still desirable to use.
I think so, yeah.
We can give me a call if you
Yeah, or
feel like I can go help
If
spot.
I'm around,
whatever.
you know, I can go watch
You go
it
catch
fall.
him?
You can dial
Come
911.
Call
Yeah,
911.
I'm one. I'm good with that.
And I'm reluctant to ask Joe to do I
Yeah,
don't know.
and Joe's going back in the
that. I
hospital.
know he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is he?
He has some wires broken.
Sternum.
Oh, the sternum broke?
Well,
His,
The
his
staples?
sternum?
The staple?
Well, there was wire together, I
Yeah.
understand.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
wire and the sternum broke.
Really? Oh, I didn't know
Wow.
that.
That sounds painful.
He said he
Yeah.
could feel it.
Ugh.
Rubbed
Separate.
against it, this is,
Ugh.
rubbed against it, so.
Overshare.
Yeah.
Wow,
Oh my
that's
God.
unfortunate.
But he said it's not as bad as the original operation.
No.
Oh, yeah, because they
Sure,
didn't
wait.
take, they didn't take the, and cut it open.
Right.
So hopefully it will be an easier recovery.
Thanks.
I hope so, yeah.
Probably just a matter of going in and pulling it out and replacing it or whatever they have.
Did they use a fine surgical tool that they buy at Lowe's.
Yeah. Oh, the jackhammer.
Yeah.
My memory isn't going to do any operations on me.
All right, so give one of us a call, and we'll.
All right.
Welcoming.
Yes. Jenna and Asha assembled 7 buckets, it's been a couple of weeks ago now, which left me with 9 on hand, now I'm down to 2 or 3.
Really?
We have, I need to check brochures, but I think we have enough, there are 3 buckets back there, and I think enough supplies, whatever, to do 3 buckets.
Okay.
But I need to check on the brochures, so, and Cindy ordered new bucket, or, asked for more buckets from Ace. So hopefully, that takes a little while to have happen, so.
Good.
So 6 of them.
As people appreciate it.
Oh, they do, they're very pleased with them.
Has the, person from Poughkeepsie, New York, have they received theirs yet?
I have no idea where they might come from, I don't look at,
Oh,
who's
yeah.
from Poughkeepsie, I don't know.
Well, no, the only reason why is I was walking and, they have like a pit bull.
Are they on Laurel Way? Are they on?
Yes,
Yes,
yeah,
she
I'll
called
have
today.
to go up and,
Yeah.
they have a pit bull, but he's really friendly, I met him.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I thought, she said they have a
He's
son,
like,
and I
Vinny from
think,
Poughkeepsie, I think that's what he said he was.
oh, I don't know, but when I came back from the bank and so on, there was a young man, I don't know, 15, walking, went, oh, it's probably a pit bull.
Uh-huh.
Real friendly looking.
Yeah,
dog.
I mean,
He looked like
this
he had
guy
a good
was
time.
young.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, but I think she called today, I had a feeling it was probably her,
Yeah.
and she and her husband are ready to come tomorrow.
Right, and he commented too about the propane tank, he was
Oh,
surprised to
did
see
he?
that, he's like, yeah, I came here from New York, I tried to get away from all this, I'm surprised to see this.
How old is this man? What kind of health is he in?
Oh, no, I think
Tell
he's retired.
them to help
Wow.
us out,
He
please.
retired, I
Young
don't know.
retired?
I only met him once, I don't know. I was paying attention to the dog.
That's how I got Sal, he came in one day and told me he retired, and I thought,
What an interesting concept.
Yeah.
okay. I think I'll leave him alone.
He's a talker.
Oh, is it?
Well, I don't have too much on the planning committee. We did get the information for the soil conservation guy in the state county. And there is a loan program, so Rita's done the paperwork. Has it been submitted?
No, because, no, I'm not gonna submit that without somebody else looking at it to make sure.
Oh,
I
okay,
didn't
well, that's
mess it
fine.
up.
I'll come and look at it.
Yeah, well, one thing I'm having a little issue, and you're good with computers, it's pretty simple, it's all fillable, Drum Point Project, and there's their address, because they want the neighbors adjacent.
Right.
Edingers, okay, there they are, the owners. Every time I fill the address out, it pops in and populates the owner name. I guess it's no big deal, it's just that I can't make it look right. I have no idea, it just keeps, I've tried it many times, so then there's the signature page. And then they want, photocopy of the recorded deed, I wanna make sure I've got the right deed, of the recorded plat, I just wanna make sure I've got all the right stuff. So, that's why I didn't submit it.
Okay,
The deed for the beach?
Yes.
for the Institute fee. It's basically an interest-free loan program. So if we were able to, I mean, this could be part of a package that we would put together and present to the membership. And I don't know, so far the responses that I've heard and, looks on people's faces seems to be less than overwhelming.
Well, but
but
we're
I
talking about
just don't know.
refinancing 250K. But
Yeah.
the thing I was bothered by, and I'm not saying that Kurt and Robert are wrong, but there are many, many projections of modeling and such. And so I think they're the worst case scenario kind. And I've found a lot of things where that's not even accurate. I'm not saying they're wrong, but I'm saying that's probably not right. And they don't suppose there's going to be any technology improvement in 30 years, and that's going to make a big difference. I mean, I was thinking back, I was talking to Tony and Jack about 1991 was 30 years ago, what the stuff we've had that we didn't even know about that have come. Technology and innovation can't be discounted as far as making a
No,
difference.
no, and, when we don't,
And the modeling is projections, and it's not set science. So we can't do things because Robert and Kurt are very adamant about it, and they feel very strongly, and that's fine, but it may not be.
You know, I mean, my thing is that I agree we need to do something, you know, about the beach, and I think, you know, as soon as, you know, we can.
Get going, yeah.
You know, they say that, in 30 years, you know, the sea level's gonna rise 2 and 2.5 feet. I did not see one person in that general meeting that is gonna be around in 30 years.
But,
Well,
well, you know, until if,
Well, we have,
The children will be.
but
Well,
if,
you know, well,
I'm
I mean,
gonna be
but
here
the
in 30
children,
years.
but I mean, that's, you know, their children gonna live here, they may
No, but-
move on to
but
other
that
places.
number is
and-
suspect
but
anyhow,
yeah, the
because
number is
this is,
suspect.
because the
Yeah.
IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, there are a couple of universities in Holland which would know about sea rising, and a man from, the climatologist from the University of Alabama who testified in front of the House. The IPCC models have been shown to be greatly exaggerated in terms of the amount of sea rise, like 2.5 to 3 times.
Yeah, reality has
So
never
it's
measured
just-
up to the
We just
projection.
don't, we don't know, we don't know. We can't say because it's gonna be that, because that may not be true.
Right, there's a range, I mean, there's a range on the predictions,
Well,
you know, anywhere from maybe a foot to 2.5, and who knows where it's
How
going.
much less?
and
I
I mean, I have this
Sea level's
chart that
been
shows
rising
the
1.4 millimeters
IPCC
a year
and the
For
reality.
120 years.
No, Jack, it hasn't, that's not right.
No, that is absolutely correct.
No, it isn't, it's been, it's accelerating.
yeah, it is a
The
time.
question is, how much is it accelerating?
But-
Will any efforts that, you know, we can take, slow it down?
Well, I don't
Mike,
think
yeah.
it should govern any decision
Mike,
we
one
make
one of the
here.
things
It's
I
just
read
not
about the
relevant.
acceleration, that this is a 60-year cycle, and things accelerate for a certain number of years, and then, I mean, in the 1920s, I think in the 30s, 40s, it was high, and then it was much lower in the 20s, and I mean, you're talking about the last 100 years. So there's a 60-year cycle that, if you're just looking at 30 years, you're not seeing the proper
No,
context.
there is, people are right that there are cyclical things happening.
Mhm.
Part of it's based on the Earth, orbit positions and eccentricities and all that stuff. And there's a natural rhythm to that.
Mhm.
But that rhythm is riding on top of a rising,
Well, there's also some
So-
evidence about under ocean eddies that has changed some of the calculations, didn't take into consideration the ocean eddies, which is
right.
one of these universities that talked about how the statistics are much inflated. So I think we shouldn't make any decision based
Well,
on stuff that's not
I
science,
think-
that's science.
Well,
Well, I think there
Okay,
is science.
Well, there's
but look,
Projections.
the,
projections.
if you look at the effects of it, if it was the worst case, and let's say it's 2.5 feet, well, that speaks to, well, there's nothing we can do, it's gonna take the beach out, it's gonna eventually, you know, merge with the pond, and that's it.
Mhm.
So the people that are believing that might tend to be the ones who say, there's no point doing anything, okay?
But that presupposes no technology improvements in 30
Well-
years, and I can't believe that.
Well, I know that, but that's just, if that was the physical process going on, that, you know, what technologies, well, you might,
But you
you
don't
might,
know.
you might do like the Dutch
Mhm.
pump and.
But I mean, that there's some
But-
there are technology and innovation that we can't necessarily even
Right.
predict. I mean, it
Right.
just,
But it, but
you
if,
can't just
but
say what he said.
if Jack is right, and this is much, much, much less than what they're predicting, then we're faced with what we have now, and that's a natural erosion process
Mhm.
being driven by, you know, just what little rise in sea level there is, plus wind and current and everything
The way
else.
it's always been.
We know it's going to continue to erode that beach.
Oh, yeah.
So it comes down to, is it worth trying to do anything
That,
to help preserve it?
that's really the issue. And if you're really worried about, well, it's not gonna last 30 years, don't paint your house, never pave another road.
Right.
Whatever you do, don't buy life insurance, because it's not gonna do you any good. Nothing,
Mary's
nothing, well, St. Mary's, you know,
I'm
nothing,
kidding.
nothing, you know, I worked with architects for a while, and their theme was, okay, when we build, let's build like it's forever, even though we know it's not. And,
Yeah,
you know, the idea that, oh, well, 30 years from now,
Can I just say, I think regardless of what your opinion is or what you've read, you can always find, anybody can find facts to back up their own viewpoint.
No, we're
opinion.
not saying these are facts, we're
Well,
saying these are
But what I'm saying
projections,
is, well,
and they vary.
and what I'm saying is that regardless, you can find those projections, you can find those pieces of documentation and studies here and studies there. And I think it comes down to what Mike said, is you just have to decide,
Yes.
is there something we can do about what's going on?
yeah,
Right, yes,
that's
exactly.
really the
Rather than
issue.
arguing, well,
It's
this
re-
far left
yeah.
and that far right.
Yeah,
No,
I know,
it's- that's really
Nobody
the
says
issue, I don't think we
know.
can base our decisions on projections. I think we have to base our decisions on what we think is best for this community.
Well, also,
And then we
I-
try to do the
Right.
best
Right.
we can.
I,
Because you'll never beat Mother Nature.
No.
right.
Right.
And I also think we should base it on what we've seen so far, like the processes that we've seen so far, and the photographs that Mike, that you showed. And, you know, can we do something, now?
It's
Um,
working in, what
right.
we're thinking about doing is working in other spots and other
Right,
places
yeah.
along the bay.
oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, and Jefferson Patterson Park,
There's
right?
plenty of evidence that it can
It-
enhance the,
Right, and there's
or
no
or
guarantee,
retain.
yeah, there's no guarantee that it's gonna last forever.
Right.
and ever.
No, no guarantee about anything.
And the thing too, is that if that beach disappears, more and more people will be trespassing
on other- yeah.
into the Drum Point Club.
Well, and not
Oh,
only.
that's true.
Breaking
Oh,
it,
that's
going
very true.
around,
Yes.
going around on the beach, or going
That's right.
through the woods, or
You're
whatever.
Well, and
absolutely
it's really
right.
not fair to the people that don't have waterfront, which is like probably the majority of the households,
Right.
and
A lot of water
it just
coming
doesn't seem
You know,
like
the
Well,
other
but-
thing, when the time comes to really discuss this at a general membership meeting, I think we have to put out a major drive to tell people this is gonna be discussed. If you're interested,
so.
show up.
And
And-
it would be interesting to see how many people go to
That's
that
right.
beach
Mhm.
who could give a rat's,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Because-
and will show up.
Yeah, because
Well,
right now,
they don't
we're
understand
basing our
the
decisions on
ramifications.
the nearly dead crowd,
Yes.
which includes me. You know, we're like St. Petersburg, but we've left out the newlywed. You know,
Well, I think it would be a great benefit to have it. I mean, I saw during the pandemic how many people were going up to the
Oh.
beach,
oh yeah.
or even the pond fishing and everything. I mean, people in the area, especially with their families, they want
Oh,
to be
yeah,
able to go to the
that's right.
beach.
On housing values.
And,
Yeah.
I think that
It's
has
just
to be.
not fair not to do something for these people,
Yeah.
to make this decision in a very
Right.
close-minded way.
So, you know, it's gonna come down to, we can show them concepts that look like they will help protect the beach. Then we have to present them some
Enhance it.
financing options
Mhm.
or impacts. We'll have to put that together, but to see what, we're, like this loan, this is basically a provisional application. Because, you know, we can't go forward until we have approval from the community, but this provides part of a financing option, and Jack's got good points there about the, you know, we may have,
You know, that may be the way to go, instead of using all our own money,
Well, then
like
we can get
finance
more interest
half.
rate. Yeah.
it's interest
well,
free,
right.
pay for it with tomorrow's money.
Well, yeah, I think there's probably a blend of things that
Yeah.
we can do.
As an association,
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to make a point that when you show it to the general public, it would be really good to have a clear, like, visual
Mhm.
of what it would, you know, what it looked like and where the properties are, because I think a lot of people in general public, like, from the last meeting, didn't really understand where a drum point
That's right,
started,
yeah.
club started.
Robert definitely.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
felt
Did
that.
that for
He
him.
thought it was all the same thing.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
He's relatively
And-
new here in Drummond.
So, like, you know, before we vote on it, make it all
Well, I
kind of
think-
clear to
I
people
think we
what we're
have to
talking
understand
about.
about, every aspect of the financing,
Yeah.
the
Right.
options here, so it doesn't sound like it's the whole 250K.
Right, right.
That the show's got with that crowd.
And people that actually use the beach
Right, they should be
to
the one.
come and,
Because they have
You know,
this, they
I
have.
want this beach.
Yes, and I'll tell you, there's many of these young families that do want that beach.
Yeah.
And I can bring it up to the woman that does the beach scheduling, because they all obviously
Yeah.
like and want that.
But, you know, I think our goal needs to be for the next, probably the next general membership meeting, to have
Yeah, to have
a
something.
little more information about financing and
Yeah.
the costs and what kind of impact that would be on individual property owners.
But the real question is, what do they think would happen to the club's beach? That's a real question.
Well, that is, but getting them to,
The permitting process, I mean, if we decided today, I mean, this is something that would take
Yeah, take
at least a year.
Yeah.
oh, sure, it takes some time.
And the effects of it is going to take time.
Yes,
You know, it's not gonna be like, oh, good, you put it up and, oh, now we're getting all this sand.
yeah.
You know,
No,
it's gonna
you
be,
have to,
it's gonna be,
if you look at some of these projects that have been done, you know, they start with breakwater, a little bit of sand to get it started. And over time, you get some accretion.
So in a year's time, what impact will it have on this project we're talking about? I mean, is this something that we're gonna have to reevaluate it? Are we gonna lose more of that beach in a year's time?
You could lose some, you could gain some.
But Gary,
It's Mother
Gary
Nature,
right.
Gary has observed in the past 20 years. that-
Oh, yeah, you,
Well, the net
Well,
loss, it's a net
yeah.
loss.
We've
when
had,
you gain some and lose some, you lose
Yeah.
more than you gain.
we've had a
Yeah,
net,
we
a net
definitely-
loss
Mhm.
over time. And
That Gary is.
you'll get some short-term cycling where you'll get, you know, it'll come and go, but
Yeah, I've been judging it by the fence that goes to, Shore Point Club, and like, yeah, it's really about 10 or more feet.
Yeah.
It's eroded in there.
so, work in progress.
But I think we should try to move forward and get the younger, the people that.
Well, yeah, when it comes time to get a community decision, I think we have to
Well,
make an effort to get the people that probably are more interested in
Yeah.
whether the beach is there or not.
And well, there's
Yeah.
also that the beach, that lot is $91,000 worth an asset, I mean, I don't know how you,
Well, that's arbitrary.
I know, but how do you, but it's not valueless, so if you just let it go, oh well.
Oh, but you can call it 350 if you like.
But the balance sheet says 91.
Yeah, so
Oh,
91
okay,
is
but
what-
91 is good.
91,000 is what I keep hearing.
Now, how does that translate into your individual property owner value? I don't
Well,
know.
I don't know, but,
I think it increases the sellability.
yes.
Maybe not how
that's-
much you can ask.
No, but
Right.
it's.
I mean, unless you're right on the water.
It's an amenity that
It's
can.
an
Yeah.
amenity,
Yeah.
it's a
You know,
community
community
amenity.
amenity.
Yeah.
Because if we don't have that, then they'll go to some other development, why shouldn't they?
Yeah, just to make it a more desirable place.
Yeah.
Well, it seems pretty desirable at the moment.
Oh, it is.
Real estate's going crazy.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so let's,
that's true.
so we'll pursue this loan and see where that goes.
Right. You want to stop by tomorrow and just look at everything over and see what you think, or the next day?
We're not gonna get the money right away.
No.
And then Jack, if we can get some ideas on what you think might be available from our reserves and.
Yeah, okay, I'll
It's kind
get
of-
people together and then.
Oh, I know.
Good idea,
I'm
yeah,
sure.
for younger people to come to the meeting, because like you say, they're the ones who are gonna.
They're the ones that really have a
If
vested
they're not that
interest in.
interested in it, then why are we like?
Yeah, that's true. If they don't show up and they're not interested, why are we?
Well, I don't, that's me, it's a Tuesday evening, I think, meeting in June. So, you know, there's school the next day, well, maybe not, who knows if there'll be school
But
in
you
the
know,
summertime.
I mean,
Anyway,
you have
they're
those-
busy, is what I'm
You
saying,
can
younger
have
people.
one parent could.
One parent.
Well, this is true.
One parent.
No, unless you are a single parent. I'm just
Well,
saying,
Well, yeah, well-
I'm just saying, it isn't that they're not
If it's
interested.
not important to you, you will show up.
I'm saying it's not that they're not necessarily interested.
No.
It may just simply be that they,
Right.
like
Yes.
Alyssa,
So you're saying,
she's got 2 little kids and other meetings.
so that's why the Saturday morning is better bet probably for most people, although people get things, working people need the weekend to get stuff done.
Oh, I agree, I'm just saying. you know.
Well, and, you know, that raises another question, if it eventually comes down to a vote
Mhm.
on something this size of a project and important, can we get away with just a meeting? Or do we need to have a mail?
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe
but
get-
maybe
that's- yeah,
that would
maybe
be a way of getting
A
people.
position, a position paper,
Yeah.
and yes, no.
If it,
It might be a good idea.
But it has
if
to
it
be,
makes us, our fees going to go up, our annual fees and how much,
Well, that's part of this
That's
whole,
already
but if we have the money already and we don't have.
And we have an
We
interest.
don't have
rate.
an interest loan.
No.
yeah.
How long is the loan?
I don't even know.
we
I
haven't
don't
got- we haven't
think it
gotten
says
into all
that
those details
On here,
yet.
does it?
And the guy who runs this hasn't responded to my questions from him yet, so.
Mhm. Then if we pay for our reserves, then it's not gonna affect any homeowner, at least in theory.
Well, we don't,
But if we have to finance it at interest, yeah, then
Well, even if we finance it without interest.
without interest, yeah.
The payments have to be made, we
Payments
don't know
have to
what
be
the
made.
payment schedule is.
But,
Yeah.
but we
There's a bunch of unknowns
Yeah,
still that
yeah,
have to be.
But we presumably have it to make those payments, we just don't have to make it all at once, we make it
Yeah,
over
we may
time.
have enough to where our
We
income
know-
stream will support it, but.
thinking back to when the association purchased this house, which was the first couple of years I worked here, because they did rent it, or we did rent it, that drew all kinds of naysayers. And why do you need that house? It's a waste of money. I mean, here we are 10 years later, we don't have a mortgage, we're not paying rent,
Mhm.
and there's not that much upkeep.
Yeah.
I'd say it was the right decision.
Mhm.
But just that being said, once word really starts to trickle through the community that you guys want to spend $250,000, I would say you can expect people streaming into these meetings, because that's what happened when we wanted to buy this house.
That's good.
They should be,
Yeah.
they should be, but
They
the,
haven't-
but the ones that streamed in were the ones that were against it.
Yeah.
Well, but we gotta get the,
You gotta
maybe
get
the way, okay, get the word out, use the meeting as a public forum to announce that there will be a mail-in ballot.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's a good idea. I think
Yeah.
it should be.
And then the paperwork that goes out, the explanation about has to be
Right.
concise, but still very clear of the options.
When we voted on the latest STD, that was a mail-in ballot, this was a
No.
decision about the
We
same
don't-
magnitude. Probably.
We didn't vote, the community doesn't vote on whether there'll be an STD. The board works out the budget that you want, take it to finance at the county. The commissioners hold a public hearing.
Yeah.
And then everybody who wants to can come to the hearing and speak. But the commissioners are the ones that vote on whether or not to approve it. The community does not vote on that STD per se.
That's a little surprising. I don't remember back.
They might have 20 years ago or so when they went for the first STD, or 25 years ago, however long, in the mid-90s, I guess.
Remember Hart at the last meeting said, I hate STDs.
I know he
So
did.
we gotta cut
Thanks, Mike.
Easy, easy, Mike.
Yeah, but he went 180 after that.
Yeah, well, he found out that that wasn't the
Explained it.
right thing to say.
Well, even this loan, if it ever happens, the point of contact for email raised the ugly question about an STD. Maybe needed to, to be able to actually put something like this into place. So, and he hasn't answered my question on that yet either, so anyway, so there's a lot of work.
Well, Work in progress.
Well, that's all I have to say on that.
All right.
We'll get to work, we'll continue gathering data. Any other unfinished business?
What's the status of spring cleanup? Did we decide yes or no?
We didn't decide that the county, the last time I called appeal, which was just after the last meeting or maybe just before the last board meeting, was told that they're not allowing dumpsters to be placed yet. Now, that might have changed by now, but I can call again.
Yeah, because the
So I
state is
said, yeah, they
opening
know.
up.
I know, I'll call again.
Okay, yeah, because I think that's something that we
Although-
definitely should try to schedule a day.
At this point, it's too late really for the spring cleanup. I mean, maybe
Early summer.
early
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking in terms of getting it
Right.
into your newsletter and advertising.
Well,
But I'll call appeal and see.
Summer, or even if it has to be fall.
Yeah.
Find out
Yeah.
what's going
Yeah.
on.
Well, yeah.
And speaking of dumpsters, what, you raised the question about the person wanting to sell the lot,
Oh,
where
that's
we put the
right.
dumpsters.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I got a letter and then a phone call from the owner of that lot. Good thing to bring up. She copied me actually on a letter she sent to the man that was doing the barbecuing. And which had said to him, you know, I don't want you to do it anymore, because I'm gonna sell the lot. So she called me shortly after that, and we talked about it a little bit. And she said, you know, I know John Gray used to wanna buy that lot, and he did want that, but for obvious reasons, because we use it.
Oh, you mean to buy it for DPPOA?
For DPPOA, yes, I'm sorry, no, not on personal use, I'm sorry. To my knowledge, it's never passed a perk test, which is why it's never been developed.
Is this right outside?
Yeah,
And it doesn't matter that there's a house there and a house over there.
yeah, but that one doesn't perk. so-
That one does not perk, I don't know if it's a lot of clay or whatever.
Well, if it doesn't perk, no, that's a serious question. If it doesn't perk, how much is she asking for?
I didn't ask for that, I did not ask for that.
Well, if it doesn't perk, she can't be asking too much.
No, like 7,000.
Seems
I
like
think it's desirable.
I think it would be as well.
Yeah,
I don't recall if I checked, I think I did, the SDAT, the tax assessment website, to see what the value is. And I don't remember what it was, but I do remember thinking that I was surprised that it was that much, if it hasn't passed perk. But I could be thinking of another one. I'll check to see what the SDAT says on the
it
assessed
would be
value.
interesting to know.
And where are we gonna park when we come to these meetings?
Well, yeah.
I'm parked across the street.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
they just had a lot on Johnson sell for 7,500.
That does not
It
work.
doesn't work.
Well, yeah, that would be one, yeah.
I'm telling you, people will put a shack on it, but I don't mean that, but people will buy whatever, perked or unperked now, they don't care.
Unperked, why would they do that?
And you,
And they'll be calling me in 3 or 4 years and complaining and saying, why did you let this property be sold? I've had a woman call me about that years ago. She bought it sight unseen. It's in the middle over here. There isn't even a road to it. She's in New York State. I said, well, ma'am, if you had called me, I'd have told you. I
Yeah, you
never,
got it, looked at it?
never looked at it.
I got some nice property in Florida.
Yeah.
I don't, but I'll sell it to you anyway.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah,
I can't think of her name.
It's underwater even in the low tide.
Well,
Well, we
we
got
have
that
one like that.
we have
And he
some
tries to
water.
sell it
I
for
know
30
he
or
does.
40,000.
Really?
Yes.
It's
We've had
waterfront.
several calls on that.
Waterfront.
No, on surf, it's
Yeah, I
underwater.
don't know if people.
Waterfront. Just look up, there's
Well, I-
water.
all I can say is I hope Jack is right on the sea level.
I do too.
That means my lot might survive.
Oh,
If he's wrong,
You don't have to worry.
then
You don't have to worry.
Yeah, it's amazing how the figures you were finding. It's
Just
amazing.
remember what, if we
All
all,
these horror stories, name one that has come true.
if we had all run out and listened to
30, 40
wonderful
years.
Al Gore, we'd all be
Even
dead.
one.
Didn't he say the world was gonna end in 2012?
None of them have come true.
Oh, the guy who invented the internet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting,
there are, Jack.
there's
Yeah,
a
I
whole,
go
grew up with the hearing.
Go look at
I
it,
have found
go
it.
look at the glaciers.
I don't, I don't believe, I haven't seen the glacier in my real life, but,
I've seen,
I don't
I
think-
have, and I've seen, I've been able to see how they've receded. And and the recession is rapidly increasing. And that's from, we know what that's from, so.
we don't know what
It may not be as bad,
We
you're
don't
right,
know
I
what
mean,
I see the
technology's
data.
gonna do. I'm a
I
great-
live by data.
I'm a
I'm saying,
great
you always
believer in
find data to
technology.
back up your own
there's some
viewpoint.
government websites you can look up and the data's
But-
right
but-
there.
yeah, it's right there.
But technology and innovation can't be discounted. I mean, we just don't have any clue of what that would be.
Right.
I mean, 1991, you didn't believe there'd be telemedicine, did you? I mean, there's just so many robotics and genomics, the sequencing of the genes. I mean, we didn't see any of that stuff.
And there's no doubt that the quantity may be questionable. But the processes, the physical processes are there. You can't deny that. So you have to explain what happens to those physical processes. And they lead to observations and data.
Well, one thought that has always struck me whenever everybody's talking about, well, there's more and more ocean water, blah, blah, blah. And then they go, and we're also having a lot more rain. Where does that rain come from?
Well,
The warmer water.
there are different
temperature
processes
from
there too.
There's evaporation of the oceans too, which generates a lot of water vapor which comes down as rain.
Right, and that's caught, and the more heat, the more evaporation.
That's right.
But then there's also, but at the same time, they're being supplied by other stuff,
Oh, yeah, but,
you know,
but
and
yeah,
so,
people tend to ignore.
So it
I've
doesn't
never,
fit
I've
there.
never read one
It's
that
not-
said all of this is happening, no, let's just consider this.
Stovepipes and other.
yeah, it's,
So,
I guess, because I had to study all the thermodynamics and all the other processes that go into atmospherics. And it became, and that gave me an appreciation of just how complicated the process is.
oh, it's
And so you try to model these things, and there's no way you can capture everything. And you have to, you know, your initial conditions that drive the models, all of that stuff goes into it. Now, we've gotten better because our computing has gotten better. You know, but you still have to put all those equations in together.
And it still comes down to the guy who puts it together.
And
Well,
some of the
that's-
data, some of the
yeah.
data maybe says that too.
Oh, yeah, there's lots of variables.
So
in it.
it's-
There's no,
Yeah.
They're very similar to economic models,
Yeah.
which I have worked on.
your economic models are like, you know,
If economic models were good and dependable, I would already be richer than Bill Gates, so.
That's right.
yeah, right.
Because they are not.
Or is that other, I love that, I always love that great phrase in economics, you know, don't confuse my wonderful theory with facts.
That's right.
Yeah, please.
Okay, well, we're not gonna solve all of those out there.
Once again.
We do have to have another meeting.
Oh, can I just,
Yes.
one more question. That truck on the road here,
Yes, thank you, I called state police, I forgot about that.
Just truck where?
The abandoned
the
truck
pickup-
on Lake.
the pickup truck right here at the lake in Laurel,
Uh-huh.
it's been there for a number of weeks now.
I
There's no license.
I called the state police
Well,
yesterday.
I didn't even know she
Either.
didn't have tax. I'm
And
really
it's
observant.
that part halfway on the road and halfway off, when you come around it, you have to go,
Before we leave, we'll call them.
Lake Laurel?
yeah.
No, just right down here at Lake.
Lake
I
and.
missed
Two
it.
doors down on Lake from Laurel, on the left.
Yeah,
So I called the state police yesterday, and they ran the VIN number, it has not been stolen, there's no warrants on it, so now I can place a sign on it. He said at least 48 hours, I thought it was 2 weeks. So I can place a sign on it for at least 48 hours, say, you know, to whom it may concern, this truck will be towed if it's not spoken for within the next X number of hours. And then I can have it towed. So my thinking is, I'll call and get a price on getting it towed, but there's a gentleman in the community who there was one on Pine last year, in front of a house that was being
Yeah,
rehomed.
the trash was in
And
it.
this guy actually
Bad.
took it, and because he wanted it for the metal recycling. It's a man that lives in Drum Point, he kind of lives by, not Hooker by Crook, but, but he's doing what he can to make money.
yeah.
And that's one thing he does, he recycles metal. So I thought about, and he took it for no cost to us, was the good thing. So I thought I'd contact him to see if he wants it, if he can get it out of here.
What kind of truck is it?
It's a pickup truck.
What year?
Blue, I don't know.
Oh, I
It's
don't
not
know.
very old.
It's like no, it's not like a cool.
No.
No.
Well, when they ran the VIN, they couldn't,
Uh,
they couldn't track an owner or
No,
everything.
no,
So we don't have
I have no idea. I called, the house that it's sitting in front of is for sale.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
sent an email to the man that I had that email address, it didn't get bumped back to me, so I'm assuming he saw that email. And I asked him if it belongs to him, and he has not responded.
So why didn't the state police tell you who it belongs to?
They can't track it to anybody, there's no owners,
Oh, okay, so when you
registered.
ran the
It's
van.
not registered.
There's no
It
VIN?
didn't come up, there's a VIN.
So when they ran it, nothing was attached to the VIN number?
Well,
That's what's
you know what,
weird.
I didn't know
Yeah,
what.
that would be weird.
He didn't, I guess I didn't ask that. He said it wasn't stolen, there were no warrants on it, we could have it towed. That's what he said. I don't know if they'll give me that kind of information. He certainly didn't volunteer it. I don't know why he wouldn't give it to me.
If you have to tow it, where do you tow it to?
I don't know where they take it.
To the recycling center.
For the recycling center, I assume.
Well, they'll tow it, I mean, they're
So
towing,
this guy can
they'll
get it.
tow it to a impound lot,
Yeah.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
and whoever it belongs to has to pay to claim it.
Right, and I suppose it can sit there and so, for so long, and then maybe those people recycle them.
Well, they may, I
Oh,
don't
they
know, that's
do.
why I
They're
was
selling them.
curious if they, maybe they wouldn't give you the name and address of an owner, but they would at least confirm that there is a
So strange
registered
though,
owner.
how does it get there?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, I never was, we were
Guess
talking,
that.
I don't know, we were talking about something, I think it was like, maybe it was one of the meetings where someone was complaining about people parking halfway on their lawn,
Yes, that would
halfway
be
on the
somebody
road.
at the membership.
And, you know, that whole big thing and what we can do about it, you can't do about it, then all of a sudden this thing shows up. And I'm like, what's he doing? But you, I mean, I go on to the other side of the road to get around it, and if anybody's coming this way, you have to wait,
Yeah.
to get by it. And it, you know, it was just like, I figured, okay, 1 day, 2 days, but it's been going on for at least, like 2 weeks now, or longer than that. And then Ralph noticed the other, that it doesn't have any tags. So. Abandoned.
Have you tried like knocking on the guy's
Nobody's looking
A
for
friend
me
of mine
when
did
I'm
that when we
there
were in grad school.
Do it.
His car broke, he was from
Yeah.
Arizona.
Is there
His
a-
car broke down on
Is
the
there
bridge.
a realty sign
Yeah,
there?
just
Yeah.
took the tags off,
It
threw
says
them in the river and walked away.
Did somebody die?
Not that I know.
I don't know.
No, I don't think, how could they?
Yeah, well, that's, I don't know, I just, it's not here, I don't know, I don't know.
Could you ask the realtor if they know anything about the vehicle?
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea too. I'll drive by and see who has it listed.
Yeah.
The deputies can run the VIN.
Well, and they did, but I just didn't think to say, well, who owns the vehicle? I don't know if they'd have told me that.
But
I have no idea.
So
But he
maybe-
didn't volunteer it, but
well,
yes,
maybe
he
you-
ran the VIN.
But you said you called state police rather
State
than the
police.
county?
I called county. I started with the county because I know that number, so, and they did it, so.
It wouldn't matter, I mean, as long as some law enforcement.
next
Okay.
meeting, next meeting?
Our next meeting is
The fourth would be the
Fourth.
first Tuesday, that works for me.
4th of May?
4th of May, same time, same place.
The afternoon?
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll be able to make it, I'll try.
Because I can't do the 11th.
Because Micah comes back on the 3rd,
Oh, okay.
but I'll try.
Would it be here at 7, or what's the
So 7th, so we're back to the 7th.
As far as I can tell, yeah.
No, I mean, that's
Seems to
okay.
be
It's
okay.
950,000.
And then you'll get in touch
It's
with
smaller
us
than a lot
after
of
you
them.
talk to Alyssa about a date for the trainings.
Salary. Hearing.
You'll get back to us after you get in touch with Alyssa about what's a good date
Yep.
and time,
That seems extremely
day, evening.
And it'll be here, probably Alice, will take the Zoom.
All right, well, thank you.